is a little bit, it's a little bit into issue number 36. I hope everyone's there. It's a quote from Bhava Viveka. Bhava Viveka says, "This negation, not from self, is to be viewed as meaning a non-affirming negation." No problem there. Because of principally, now we've had a problem all along with the word principally, but anyway, you know, if it's principally being a non-affirming negation, then what else is it? A little bit something else? But we've not found any solution to that. I went in and read in the first volume in this projected 8-volume series, why I was so unenlightening last time was that prior to the meeting, I was finishing up volume 7, which is still not on the web, but is finished. I finished it before our meeting. And that occupied a good bit of my mind. Anyway, in volume 1 of the series, at the end is the very long commentary by Avalokitavrata on Bhava Viveka's refutation of Buddhapalita's explanation of Nagarjuna's not from self. So I turned to that and read it. And it's well worth your looking into it. And if you wanted to find the appropriate section, the section, how I found the appropriate section was just looking up the word intending in that volume. And you can easily find the appropriate section. As I mentioned earlier, Avalokitavrata patiently tells you the meaning of just about every word of Bhava Viveka's refutation, and then puts the words together in phrases and tells you what the phrases mean. And it's really very kind. It doesn't unravel and give you answers to all of our questions, but it's helpful just to oneself patiently going through even things that you didn't want somebody to tell you what such and such a word means. But it slows you down and makes you notice probably raises some more issues. Okay. Principally being a negation, and just to ferret out and make some trouble for Bhava Viveka and anyone else who repeats it, do you mean a little bit an affirmation, you know? If it's principally a negation, then you would think that means a little bit, an affirmation. And because of intending to establish non-conceptual pristine wisdom. And I presume that the questioner wanted me to address this because if it's intending to establish non-conceptual pristine wisdom does not make it an affirming negation if it's got an intention to do something. Well, when Nagarjuna says not from self, not from other, not from both, and not causelessly, he's intending to prove something. It's not just dead words. And so what Nagarjuna is seeking to do, is intending to do, is to establish, to promote, to produce non-conceptual, pristine wisdom. It doesn't mean anything more than that. We have to switch focus here to see Nagarjuna's basic intent in setting forth the four non-affirming negations. What he's intending to produce by our mixing our minds with these four absences is to produce a wisdom. Wisdom what? Endowed with the entirety of objects through refuting the entirety of the net of conceptions. The net of conceptions is the net of conceptions. Avalokitavrata says the conceptions of production from self, other, both, and causelessly, which exhausts, I'm adding, which exhausts all possibilities of, in Chandrakirti's terms, of inherently existent production. Then, if we keep reading down, similarly, I was really thrilled with Chandrakirti's comment, which I imagine doesn't thrill you. Similarly, Chandrakirti, speaking about the first stanza, says, in one way it's cute in that he gives synonyms for things like ever. Ever? Well, not synonym. He gives ever. If you read you could read the Sanskrit. Jatu means kadachit. Or if you read the Tibetan, can you follow me? Are you looking at it? Namyang means sharyang. As if these words need someone to tell you what they mean. Like ever means when. I mean something to do with time. Ever has something to do with time. Really, it can make you laugh. Like these words need to be glossed. You need to be clued in what ever means. But look what he does with it. So then if you look at the English, we'll read the English. The term anywhere is a term for a support, a place, you see. A place, a support. A synonym of somewhere, you see. Somewhere, a place. The term whatever or any is a term for the supported, something that's there at that place. It's like a scholar has gone crazy and is going to tell you what perfectly ordinary terms mean, but Chandrakirti's not like that. So he's going out of his way. He's not, sorry, when I switch languages, I stutter. My stuttering from childhood is left over there. Is as if the languages are stored in different places and I can't jump over the fence. And I get caught as I jump, as I try to step over this fence or jump the fence, like hurdles. I was in track for years, some years, and I would never do hurdles. So anywhere is a word for a support, some sort of base, a synonym of somewhere. The term whatever or any is a term for the supported, the thing that's on it, a synonym of whatever. Well, that's another word for whatever. Suda in Tibetan. Su, we tend to think of as there's going for humans, who. But it doesn't have to be. Hence it is to be put together thusly. And he does a magnificent, puts it together magnificently. Not from self or whatsoever things, or whatever things, whatever you prefer. Not from self or whatever things ever produced anywhere. Now, this is following the word order of Nagarjuna's statement, which I picked up from, I thought, another person's, I can't think of his name, recent. I thought following Nagarjuna's word order was really good because all Nagarjuna says is not from self, not from other, not from both, not from neither. Meaning not causelessly. So beginning it with not from self, the commentary, beginning it not from self, I thought had a certain power. And then in the note, it says not from others, not from both, not causelessly, not from others, or whatsoever things. What's better, whatsoever or whatever? What do you prefer? Individually, if you're going to take it to mind.
Anything.
Yeah, but I'm not jumping to the level of a completely different translation. See, you've got to go with, in Tibetan, Kangda, or the Sanskrit, what mirrors the Sanskrit in Tibetan. Within the Sanskrit in Tibetan, it's either whatsoever or whatever. So I'm limiting you to those two. There's another level of translation where you start turning things around and word it, a freer translation. What do you prefer, whatsoever or whatever? Yeah, choose whichever, Not from others or whatever things ever produced anywhere. Now you see, these are for meditation. That's why I'm so tickled by it all. Not from both or whatever things ever produced. See, whatsoever makes the other ever, whatever things. that ever and the ever, you see, the ever is time. Ever produce, but whatsoever things, that ever is not time. Ever produced anywhere. You see, Chandrakirti is forcing us to recognize that anywhere means he's forcing us to recognize the meaning of anywhere is place, any place. Ever means time across the huge expanse of time. He's forcing by giving synonyms and the meaning of whatever or whatsoever, that this means any, you see, anythings. You see, by giving the meaning, he causes us to stop up above and not just run over whatever things, you know. Oh, that means any things. Ever means at any time. To stop. You see, if you're going to meditate it, you have to stop on these things, these words. Ever means at any time. Anywhere. At any place. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, other galaxies. You see, dwell on that. See, Chandrakirti is doing something indeed very cute. Very, very, very cute. He's a yogi. It's very funny. Funny meaning opening up the mind. And when he gives one example, not from self up in the translation, out of the note, or whatsoever things ever produced anywhere, and then right after it he says, it is to be put together similarly for the three pieces. And that's what, from, exploring what these scholars who make us stop and then think, what the hell does not from self mean? And then spend, in my case, several decades on the topic of not from self and twist your mind and so forth. Not causelessly, not from both. And you just sort of want to rattle it off. Or whatsoever. Anything you can think of. For instance, in non-dual Vedanta, you meditate on things. Anything that anything that appears to your mind, and individually, and you think, neti. What does neti mean? How long have we been meeting at Shravasti? How many years? Since when? 2012? You said? Only 8 years? Oh, I thought it was since like 1943. So you've heard me say that neti means na, which is negative. Na is not. Iti just is like quote marker. Na iti. But it's like not this. Brahman, that means Brahman, whatever. Reality is not this. So you're looking for reality, and it's not this. So anything that appears to your mind is just not. And the next thing that appears, not. And you just keep looking, but you let things appear. Not. Next thing that appears, not. So remember, the shortest Perfection of Wisdom Sutra is not ah. Ah would be like, relief. Ah, how nice. Less long A. It wouldn't be, that doesn't work. Is negative. Negative means absence of inherent existence. So you're to think, realize absence of inherent existence with anything that appears to your mind. You see? It cuts. Sword, Manjushri, cut. Na. So not from self. Naswata. What is it? No, right? Anyway, so ever, you see, done out, whatsoever things. Wow. Ever. Produced anywhere. Wow, what a thorough, it's taking the implications out for our contemplation. I was so excited, noticing how powerful this is. And then Chandrakirti instructs us to put it together for the understood, other, for the three theses, two, also, for those others. And so, down in the note, I spelled them out. Now, I think a good translation also would be, if it's too awkward to say not from self or whatsoever things ever produced anywhere, one could turn it around and say, it may be more commodious English, which used to be my English, whatsoever things are never produced anywhere from self. Could do that if you couldn't stand not from self or whatsoever things ever produced anywhere. It's a little awkward, but doesn't mirror, not from self, not from other, not from both, not either. Not causelessly, but not either. Tale mai shen le, ni le mai not causelessly. Keizen Sambo, very interestingly, would sometimes just rattle it off. Not from self, not from me, not from self, not from other, not both, not causelessly. And not go into any detail. And, to like thrusting yourself into not finding production. And there are a lot of ritual texts in which one does, in Gilu also, in which one does the same thing. And you're supposed to, even if you're untutored and don't know what the hell's going on and you haven't studied this, much of it all, you're supposed to go through this and imagine that all appearances are cleared away into a space-like experience. Wiped out into a space-like experience. Why? In order to induce, in order to rehearse this kind of experience. So there's a lot of value. For instance, Kensung Langdon would often talk about, right, the experience of wisdom and emptiness being like water poured in water, setting up a visualization of this happening. Even though there's a reasoned procedure and a whole lot of academic study in his tradition and in the Nyingma tradition to bring about this happening. You see, there are stage rehearsals for this happening. Pretended happenings that help with, that give a clue to how this happens. So, one, shall we say, intermediate way is to reflect, for instance, that not from self, not from others, not from both, and not causelessly, do wrap up all four possibilities. And that if you wrap up all four, there's no other possibility. Therefore, things are not produced. If they're not produced, they didn't just get here. That doesn't mean that there's some other way for them to get here. They're not here. Thus they all melt in front of our eyes or in front of our internal eye. Into some sort of space. But if you do the further practice of identifying how they appear, that sense of their existing from their own side, and then search for it in whatever way you do search for it, and get conviction, search for it and don't find it, really don't find it, and are faced with that mere absence. You don't want to race on to the blah blah blahs of, well, it exists conventionally, the blah blah blah, but you search for that and you're faced with this mere absence, this mere, I'm shouting, aren't I? Well, I'm in the South, and I gotta preach. You're faced with this mere negative, and you have to let your mind mix with that mere negative, that mere absence, and stay with it. Don't lose it. That's where you are. Don't rush to something else. Don't try to rush back to your TV and watch, oh my gosh, I miss my soap opera. What am I doing with a mere absence? That does remind me, my green absinthe. I gotta have my drink. Have you ever had absinthe? You see, I'm off on absinthe. I've never had absinthe. You see, get distracted. All the drinking I did in my youth, I never had absinthe. I used to say it destroyed something. See, I'm off on. It's like, how could a mere absence be that important? I lose things a lot. That's not that important. It's like some tiny thing. But actually, the absence of inherent existence, it's even called a quality of the object, but it's the Buddha nature. If you kang la migne gombe pakbe chur gebe na deshe ningbo. It's the essence of a one gone thus, the Buddha nature. This absence, when you pay attention to this absence, the Buddha qualities can grow. And thus it's called the Buddha nature. Wow. Wow. That's just... So meditation on it allows it to grow. You see? It's quite like Baba Viveka was saying. It's not that the absence grows it, but that meditation on the absence can't grow anything. But meditation on the absence grows Buddha qualities. So the Bodhisattva grounds have qualities associated with them that are enhanced, ground by ground. What? I don't quite know how to say it. I'm in a sense digging a bit of a hole. I want to say largely due to adding a word in to continued meditation on the absence of this so solid sense that things exist from their own side. You know, it's very hard to think that, you know, when you're in the midst of something, either attractive or unattractive, that doesn't exist from its own side. So difficult. But if you take some lesser things that you can admit stupidly attracted you or repelled you, and due to their repelling you, you made an ass of yourself, you know, and got yourself into a whole lot of trouble, or attracted you and, you know, made you make an ass of yourself and wasted a whole lot of time. Those, and can we really extrapolate from that it might be possible that huge blah blah blah, you know the rest of what I'm going to say. I was really enthused by rereading what Chandrakirti had to say, because it's so, the doing out of these is so powerful. It reminded me of I can't think of his name. This very powerful scholar that His Holiness chose as the best geisha who came out of Tibet. Of those who came out of Tibet, he gave them all a test. And Gendon Lodre, who ended up in Germany and learned German and became a full professor in Hamburg. And he was talking about let's see, I don't know if it was the sevenfold reasoning or the whatever for, and he was talking about finishing it off with including the most absurd possibility, which was, for instance, among the seven, like, it's not, you know, the most obvious possibilities is that Jeffrey is somewhere here, you know, included in this. And then you go through all of these, and then, and not other either, somewhere else. Like I'm looking out into the forest across Harris Mountain Lane. Not over there too. You know, it helps to cut off, when you've done this thoroughly, it cuts off any other possibility too. It was really sweet. Very sweet. So you see, when you say whatsoever things, it's not just the little stuff around me here, or even this body, and all this stuff that's so important. And my friends' bodies, and my enemies' bodies, and all these fantastic Americans, and Europeans, and Chinese, and, you know, blah, 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 and Martians, and, you know, the blah, blah, blah. But, you know, going way out into outer space, going to other galaxies, way out there. And then when you do that, then once I got way out there, Joe Biden appeared to my mind. There's all sorts of, you know, levels of imagination that have to be taken account of. You see, it's not, you know, you can say, well, they were already included in this world system. Logic doesn't have that much play here. It's got some play, but you're working with your own mind. Here was way out there. I was way out there, and Joe Biden came up. It's not that Joe Biden was way out there. All right. Anyway, so till next time.